everybody. Welcome to Librarians Talking About Movies. This week we're talking about Edward Scissorhands. I am here with my friend Natasha, a fellow librarian. Natasha, tell us where you work.
Hi, I work here at Main Library. I'm a library assistant.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, and she's like a novice programmer. She's a programmer also. She does programming with us.
I help out.
Yeah. So yeah, today we're talking about Edward Scissorhands. Natasha, when's the first time you saw Edward Scissorhands? Do you remember?
The first time I saw it, I was probably like real little. I have vague memories of it. And it's funny because I've recently rewatched it, and I was thinking like, wow, I don't remember all of this stuff. Like kind of some of the more like mature stuff, I guess, from the movie. I don't remember. Yeah. Because I just remember like watching it as a kid and being like, oh, funny man, he cuts hedges. Like.
Yeah. No, I totally agree, and it's really like a trend with Tim Burton movies is that when you watch them as a child, you're like, oh, this is such a funny, lighthearted movie, like so creepy kind of, and like I love it, you know. But then when you watch it as an adult, you're like, oh my god. Like we watched Beetlejuice last time earlier in the month, and we couldn't believe that it was rated, I think it was rated PG or PG-13, and we could not believe that. Like we were just like,
that baffles me.
It says the F word.
Yeah.
Which is wild. And this movie, let's see, I'm not exactly sure what it was rated. It's also rated PG-13. It came out in 1990, directed by Tim Burton, also produced by Tim Burton, which was really cool, I thought. This was really like his thing. Like he did this whole movie pretty much. And so this was PG-13. Like, do you feel like, I can't say if I really agree with that. Like, I think it's great. PG-13 wasn't really a thing in the 80s. This is like a new thing in the 90s.
Yeah.
PG-13. So that's cool. Did your parents let you watch PG-13 movies?
Yeah, I had a lot of free reign over what I was allowed to watch. Like with more, basically my parents would watch it themselves and decide if they thought it was appropriate. But I had 3 older sisters, so by the time it got down to me, they were kind of a lot less like, it's fine.
You'll be fine.
You'll be fine. You'll be fine.
That's funny. See, I was the oldest, so I watched stuff, and then I was more restricted, but my parents were pretty cool about it. Mostly, if they had the movie, I was allowed to watch it. Like if we had like the VHS.
If we owned it, they had probably seen it and would know at least when to tell me not to watch.
Yeah. We definitely owned Edward Scissorhands. That was one of like the first DVDs that I ever owned. I'm pretty sure I bought it at like a Hastings or like a, I don't know, some place like that where they had like, it was like a movie store. And I remember in high school, this was like, I thought I was so cool and like edgy and like, just interesting because I liked Edward Scissorhands and Winona Ryder, and she was so amazing. I loved her so much. So in the movie, I'm going to give a quick little summary, little description about what the movie is in case you've never seen it before. So it's basically like a modern day fairy tale, and it tells the story of Edward, a man created by an inventor who died before finishing him and left him with scissors where he should have had hands. And when we say scissors, they're not like little scissors. Like these are huge.
Big knife hands.
Knife hands, yeah. Like think Freddy Krueger, yeah. Think Freddy Krueger, but like not like a snowball. Freddy Krueger. You know what I mean? That's not burnt. Yeah. That's what it's like. A snowball.
I was not sure what you meant by snowball until you said not burned.
Like not burned, and also very pale, and like a cinnamon roll, if you will. Like he's really like
he's a
gentle.
Very sweet guy, despite his knife hands.
Yeah, so he has these knife hands, and he's dressed in like, I wanted his outfit.
All the leather and belts,
and
like he
little
looks so
buckles.
cool.
He has like little things. Like he looks like you could suspend him from the ceiling. You can take him and suspend him from the ceiling with all of his little hooks and like little things attached to his outfit. But anyway, one day the local Avon. Okay, I thought it was Mary Kay for some reason. No, but she does. I remember now. She says Avon calling. Okay, so the local Avon representative calls at a historic mansion. So it's just this huge giant mansion. It's really creepy, and she's just like this lady from, it looks like it maybe takes place in like the 50s.
Yeah.
And she's just like with her little pillbox hat and her little, pastels, and she's walking up to this like haunted mansion.
It's so cute.
It's
She's just
adorable.
like, would you like to buy some lipstick? But she's like, but it's like obviously like
No one lives
creepy
there.
and like
Yeah.
there's spider webs everywhere and it's like gothic and scary.
Yeah, she just goes in. She's like, hello, Avon calling. But yeah, so when she goes into this historic mansion, she finds Edward living there. He's been living there alone, and she basically like decides to take him home to her family. Because that's a totally normal and logical thing to do. I found a man with knife hands, dressed in all black, like leather and straps. This is normal. I'm going to take him home.
My new goth son. It's fine.
Yeah.
I support him.
First of all, we got to love her. Like, we love her. What's her name in the show, in the movie? I can't remember.
Oh.
Is it Peg?
Peg, yeah, Peg.
Okay, so her name is Peg, which also I love.
Mm-hmm.
I just love her. She's so funny.
So she's a good heart.
She's just a nice, kind lady who just wants to help this poor, like, confused, person or
Poor
whatever.
confused little goth.
He doesn't really talk very much at all in the movie either.
Mm-mm.
I think, does he ever talk? I feel like he does.
He talks a little.
Yeah.
But he's very quiet.
Mm-hmm. Very quiet, very reserved. He gives a lot away with, like, his eyes, I feel like.
Yeah. Like
Johnny Depp plays him.
Mm-hmm.
And gives a lot away with his facial expressions, his body language, and his eye movement. I felt like was like, you could always tell when he was confused, which was most of the movie.
Yeah, most of the
movie. Because he's just looking around like
what?
What the heck? So I guess my next question would be, who do you relate to the most in the movie? Like, out of the characters that you know, who, like, because I remember I asked this question of the group that when we watched Beetlejuice, and I related to two different characters. If they became one person, I feel like that would have been me. So who do you feel like you relate to most?
I know it's cliche, but I gotta say probably Edward. Like, he's very relatable. And, watching it, I watched it a few weeks ago with one of my friends who is a big fan of the movie. And, like, I grew up with, like, a developmental disorder. So, kind of delayed, like, social and all that. So, like, it's kind of interesting, like, seeing him, like, navigating these social situations and, like, people are treating him in a certain way and he doesn't really understand why, or people have, like, certain opinions on him or, like, expect him to do certain things in certain situations, and he's just, like, coasting through it, not really understanding what's, like, happening around him, but, like, trying to make the people around him happy the best he can, and, like, sometimes it, like, blows up in his face, and people's opinions on him change because of the way he reacts to things, but he doesn't know better, he doesn't understand better. Yeah. And so it's like, as somebody who, like, grew up kind of in that situation a lot, like, watching that, I was just kind of like, you know what? I get it. I feel you, Edward. Like, yeah, I can relate to you.
Yeah, I'd have to agree, definitely. I feel like Edward was the most complex character in the show. Like, I keep calling it a show. In the movie, I think he was the most complex character because even, like, Kim, Winona Ryder's character, the daughter, the parents, the neighbors play a really big part they live on this neighborhood that's very, like, everybody talks about everybody knows everybody's business, but, like, you don't really get to know them, the characters that much. You really get to know Edward, and you get to know him on, like, a really personal level, which is really interesting considering that he doesn't talk a lot. But there's an intimacy there with him because you feel, like you said, you relate to him so much. And I feel like even without having any kind of, like, of course you relate to him so much because you kind of lived that growing up. But, like, I think even without that, having that exact experience, even as an adult, I related to him so much because I find myself in social situations all the time that I am like, I have no idea how to act right now. No idea what's going on. Yeah. And so he kind of gives you permission, I think, to, like, feel that way. And there's, like, a validation there with him, which is just so great. I don't know how you can watch this movie and relate to anyone else. Yeah. I mean, there would be moments where you're like, haha, oh, that's so me. Like someone will say something or do something funny, but, like, overall, I feel like Edward, he's the character that we see the world through in this movie. So it's like, we have the closest understanding to his personality and point of view as compared to everyone else. Yeah, and I think it'd just be weird to be like, yeah, I relate to the mom, which, like, don't get me wrong, I love her. She's great. But, like, I don't know what's going on in her mind half the time. Like, yeah. She's, like, putting makeup on Edward, like, we're gonna make you look normal, and he's just, like, sitting there. Like, yeah, I feel like she's just using him. Like, well, no, I don't feel like she's using him. That's the wrong word. I think that she genuinely, like, felt bad for him and wanted to give him a family, and that's kind of her role. I mean, if we really wanted to, like, get real deep with it, like, She is the 50s. She's a mom. She's like a 50s housewife. I feel like that definitely fits in with that like stereotype. But I think she genuinely cared, but I also think she was really enjoying having somebody to practice her Avon on. 'Cause that was a big thing for her, was doing makeup and stuff like that. And he also, later on in the movie, helps her kind of realize a dream that she's always had, to have a salon. So they find out that Edward is really good at lawn landscaping, kind of like what would you call that?
Like he trims the hedges into shapes. I don't know.
There's probably a word.
There probably is a word.
He like makes sculptures out of the shrubbery.
Yeah.
He takes the shrubs and like the little trees and stuff like that, and he like makes them into insane things, like sculptures, like real sculptures, like horses and people and this and that and animals and stuff. And so one day at this barbecue, which the barbecue deserves a whole podcast just on its own. So, you know, you can picture it. There's a 50s neighborhood. Everything's pastels. It's ridiculous. And they're having this barbecue. And they see Edward cutting the shrubbery. I don't know any other word. I'm horrible at describing.
I don't know. I can't think.
Doing gardening. I don't know.
Art, landscape art.
Yeah. Anyway, they see him doing that, and they like wonder if he can cut hair. How does that happen?
Yeah, because he's cutting one of the bushes. Because after they see him doing that, like a lot of the people in the neighborhood start asking him to like cut the bushes, and like one day he's cutting the bushes, and like the neighbor's dog comes up, and he just starts cutting the dog's hair, and like all of a sudden, all the neighbors with dogs want him to cut the dog's hair.
Yep.
And then the woman, is her name Marla?
I think so.
Marla is one of the neighbors who is very, like, she's super, super into Edward and, like, wants to be with him. And she is like, oh my God, can you cut my hair? And so then he starts cutting everybody in the all the women in the neighborhood's hair. But it's like he's giving them all these crazy hairstyles, but they're so into him, so, like,
they don't care.
Like,
that's hilarious. Yeah, and it's just, like, there's this one woman, I cannot for the life of me remember her name. It does start with an M, though. And is she the one that's, like, just feeding him that like 7-layer dip?
Yeah.
And she's just like super obsessed with him. It's really weird and uncomfortable. There's a scene like, so he does their hair, and then they move into getting like an actual salon, like an actual location, because he's getting so popular. And there's a scene in the salon with that woman, and she's insane. And poor Edward just has no idea what to do. She's coming on to him. He's just like, please help me. I'm very.
He like runs away.
I'm uncomfortable. Yeah. Good for him for running away, because she was a creepy old lady.
But it is kind of sad, because that's something, like, one of the big points in the story is, like, something bad happens, and everyone's opinion on him very abruptly changes. And even that story, like, what actually happened was, like, she came on to Edward, and Edward was not interested, and he ran away. But then, like, she spins the story later, when people start, like, not liking him, to avoid getting embarrassed, she like spins the story to where like he basically attacked her, and she like barely got away, which is not what happened at all. So it's kind of sad. Yeah.
It's not good. And we should also mention that Edward has a big crush on Winona Ryder's character, Kim. There's a whole thing with that where, you know, he's got a crush on her. She's kind of like, you're very interesting, but like, I'm not really sure. Plus I have this boyfriend who's a real jerk. He's a real jerk.
He's such a jerk.
He's just a bad guy. He's like your stereotypical like school bully.
Yeah.
Like think Biff from Back to the Future.
Yeah.
Type guy. Okay. So anyways, leading on into the movie, like that whole thing happens with the salon. The mom and the dad are loving, you know, the mom is just overjoyed. She's loving it. She's loving having Edward there. Everything's great. There's this funny scene where, this is actually earlier, but it's a scene that I remember so much, is when he like pokes holes in the waterbed by accident. So he just like sits on this waterbed and like sets his hands down and accidentally pokes holes in the
waterbed. Yep.
Yeah, so there's all kinds of hijinks going on, like at home, you know. But at one point there's a part where, and tell me if I'm wrong, the boyfriend, Kim's boyfriend, and another person like break into a house or something.
Yeah, because like what happens is Kim's boyfriend, he's mad because his parents are rich and they won't help him buy a car, and he really wants to buy a car. And so Edward helps them break into their own house one day because, like, Kim and I can't remember the name of the boyfriend.
Name? Oh, the boyfriend. Yeah.
They are trying to get into the house, but the door's locked and they forgot their keys. So Edward like jimmies the lock with his scissor hands, jimmies the lock and lets him in. So seeing that, the boyfriend gets the idea that they're going to break into his house and steal all his dad's expensive stuff and sell it
to get a car,
so that he can get the money for the car.
Brilliant.
But what happens is they break in and the security system comes online and Edward gets locked in there.
Oh no.
And he takes the fall for it. And the boyfriend, Kim is like really mad. She's like, we can't, like, he doesn't know any better. Like, he only came because I asked him to. We can't leave him. But like the boyfriend basically like picks her up because Winona Ryder's like 2 feet tall.
I love her.
Like picks her up and like runs away with her and like doesn't like tell anybody what happened. So like he takes the fall for this. And that's the thing, like I was talking about earlier, that like all of a sudden everyone in the neighborhood like is scared of him and hates him because he got caught like doing something bad.
Yeah, just to let everyone know, we have spoilers in this show.
Spoilers in
this podcast.
After we've said the spoiler, here's the spoiler.
Well, it is called Librarians Talking About Movies. So if you didn't want to hear us talk about the movie, that's on you.
You should still watch it though. It's a good movie.
If you're already here, you're already here. You already know. Just stick with us until the end, okay? But yeah, so that sucks. Like that, I always felt so bad for Edward there because you can just see it again with that like super expressive, facial features and like facial expressions. Like he doesn't even say very much, but you can just tell that he's so disappointed and he cared so much about Kim that like he just couldn't believe that she did that to him. It's heartbreaking. It really is like one of the hardest.
And I always remember like the boyfriend had been trying to convince Kim for the longest time to like get Edward to help him break in. And he was like, he'll do anything you ask him to. Mm-hmm. And later, they had told Edward that it wasn't the boyfriend's house, so that he wouldn't feel bad about breaking in.
Yeah.
But later, Edward tells her, like, I knew it was his house. I just did it because you asked me to.
Oh my god.
And I was just like,
heartbreaking.
Like he knew he wasn't supposed to, but she asked him to do it.
He just loves her. I know. You're just like, I hate that guy. So
he's such a jerk.
Yeah. So then, because this whole thing happened. Edward ends up running back to his mansion. Mm-hmm. And I think that like at this point in the movie, he kind of starts to like explore more like why he's like this, which is really interesting. I thought that like there wasn't a lot of that in the early part of the movie. Mm-hmm. Like the whole first, 80% of the movie, Edward doesn't really give you any indication that he's wondering like, why am I like this? Why am I, not like other people? You get like a little Tarzan moment where he's like, this person like me, like I'm surprised that didn't come up before, but it does kind of, once he goes back to the haunted mansion where he was from, he starts to kind of see, you get this little moment. I think this happens towards the end. Mm-hmm. Natasha has seen the movie more recently than I have, in case you haven't noticed. But you get this moment where you get to see kind of into the past how the inventor kind of set this whole thing up and how Edward kind of came to be, and it's really weird and kind of creepy, but like you're so curious to know. And
like you seeing him like working on him and building him and teaching him things and all this stuff, and it's really sad because like
that's his family.
It's his family, and it's like he has his hands, and he's like, oh, it's a little bit before Christmas, but I'm going to give you your Christmas gift early, and it's his hands.
Oh my god!
But he has a heart attack. And he dies, and like, it's really sad. Like Edward like reaches out to like touch his face, but he's got knives for hands, so he just like cuts him, and it's just like really, really sad. And I was just like, no.
He's having such a hard time showing like tenderness, but he is such a tender person, like, such a good person, but he just can't express that, which like again is a huge metaphor for like so many people and so much, so many social situations. It's so difficult to show those emotions sometimes. And so I think Tim Burton did a really smart thing by like putting
a physical
personifying that feeling of like, I can't show my emotions. Well, he literally can't, or show tenderness, I should say, or, care for people in the same way that like normal people can, which is super interesting. So Natasha, you're the expert. Tell us how the movie ends. Tell us like how it all kind of wraps up.
Well,
if you can remember.
So there's a whole thing with like what a big kind of plot point of the movie, I guess, is that, like, the way people's opinions on him start to change.
Mm-hmm.
So, he starts out and he's like this new curiosity in town, and everybody's so into him, loves him so much, and then
he's a new kid.
after the break-in and he gets caught, everybody is suddenly like, oh, that could have been any of us. Like, he's a menace, he's bad, and
he's a monster.
He's a monster.
Yeah.
And he keeps getting in these situations that make him look worse and worse. Like, one day he's doing something and he accidentally cuts Kim on the hand, and everyone gets really mad at him.
Gosh.
And that same night, Kim's little brother, Kevin, I think is his name, he's like crossing the street and he almost gets hit by a car, and Edward pushes him out of the way.
Yeah.
And when he's like trying to check to see if he's all right, he accidentally cuts the little kid too. And so people think, like, all people saw was like Edward over Kevin, like with his knife hand, and people thought he was attacking the little boy when really he was just trying to see if he was okay.
Yeah.
And all this is like coming to a head, and like everyone's getting really mad, and they basically drive him in a mob out of town back into his little Gothic mansion. And he goes up there, and like Kim follows after him, and all the neighbors follow after him, and Kim's boyfriend comes up too.
Oh God, the boyfriend.
And the boyfriend is like beating up Edward, and they're fighting, and Edward's not even fighting back. He's just like sitting there. But then Kim starts fighting the boyfriend.
Oh my gosh.
And it's just this whole crazy thing where they're all fighting each other, and then Edward kills the boyfriend.
Oh my God.
And
I forgot about it. Somebody died.
It's like you're reliving it all over again.
Oh my God.
But, like,
he died.
it's because the boyfriend pushes Kim, and so Edward attacks the boyfriend.
No.
And the boyfriend like falls out the window, and all the townspeople come and see the boyfriend's body,
my God.
and they know that Edward killed him.
Oh gosh.
And so Winona Ryder, that's not her character's name, Kim. She goes downstairs and she finds like the like lab or whatever that like Edward was built in, and she finds more of those like scissor hand gauntlet things.
Yeah.
And she goes out and she's like, well, he died.
Here's his hands.
Here's his hands. Like, you can see that, like, it's proof that he's dead.
Yeah.
And everybody leaves.
I love Winona.
And, then it pans back to, like, at the very beginning, it was, like, an old woman who was Kim.
Oh, yeah.
And she was telling the story to, like, her granddaughter. And it pans back, and you see the old woman again, and the daughter's like, oh, well, why didn't you ever go back? And she's like, oh, well, like...
Because I just didn't.
I didn't, okay? That's not how the
knife hands,
story goes. Like, it would have never worked out, Susie.
Yeah. Be practical, okay?
Come on.
It's the 60s.
But it's a very dramatic ending, and it just, makes you think a bit about, like, all these people, they really liked Edward when he could do something for them. And, like, when he cut their hedges or cut their hair or, whatever. And
he
then
was useful.
The second it's complicated, the second his condition makes things complicated, all of a sudden he's a monster and they hate him. And it's just, like, really makes you think.
Yeah,
like,
it is a really telling and interesting story, for sure. I completely forgot the ending. That is such a good ending. What a great, like, story that is. I absolutely
love it. Such a sad ending. I remember, like, watching it, like, I remember this having a happy ending for some reason.
It's funny. It's like, again, it goes back to, like, rewatching Tim Burton movies as an adult. You're just like, oh, God, this is, like, introspective. Like, I'm supposed to look at myself.
I'm, like, thinking about, like, things. Like,
I didn't watch this to think, Burton, okay?
I watched this to see this funny little dog have a happy ending.
Yeah. But yeah, that is Edward Scissorhands. We just talked about it.
Yeah.
So this has been Librarians talking about movies.
That's great, yeah.
Thank you so much, Natasha, for being a part of my podcast. And thank you so much to our listeners for listening. Have a great rest of your day, and we will see you next time.
Yeah, bye.